Hi, I'm Renee, and this is The Sweet Chef, and we are going to be making a chocolate cheesecake today. And this is one of my favorite recipes. I think you're going to love it. It's super easy, and there's just no reason not to make it. So let's get started. We're going to start by making the crust. We're going to use a graham cracker crust and chocolate crust because I like to do both. And that's what we're going to start with. So I have this nifty little Pampered Chef little chopper here, and this is what I like to use. And I have 1.5 cups of graham cracker and cookie crumbs. I already kind of pre-chopped it a little bit, but let me show you real quick that's how I like to do my cookies. So for the cookies, I just like to take a few cookies and squish them like that, just like that, into the chopper, just to kind of pre-chop it. And then we're gonna add some butter to this, and we're gonna mix it all up. So let me grab my butter. I have 1/3 cup of butter into the mixer. Chopper mixer, chopper mix, chopper mixer, chopper mix, chopper mixer, chopper mix. We're just gonna make a little pump thing here. I like gadgets and stuff. I really think they're time savers a lot of times. If it's not a time-saving gadget, then I won't get it. But I used to sell Pampered Chef, and there's a lot of little gadgets that I have that I think that are really nifty, and I'm gonna be using them, and I'll tell you about them when I use them. So this is like, I think it's called Mix and Chop, because it mixes and it chops. Just try to make sure that it's all mixed good. Okay, that looks good. I like it just a tiny bit chunky anyways, so I think that looks pretty good. It's just a little bit chunky and it like stays together. Okay, and we're gonna spray our pan really well here, especially on the sides. Then we're gonna dump our cheesecake, or our crumbs. It's graham cracker crumbs and chocolate wafer cookie crumbs. And we're just gonna evenly pat that all over the bottom. Just kind of even. You wanna make sure there's no bare spots. And then once you have it pretty evenly coated, then you're gonna come back and I'm gonna really press just to make sure that it's nice and tight on the bottom. Okay? Just pressing all the way around. And some is gonna stick to your hands when you're doing it. Just a little. You can spray your hands a little bit. Get some hand spray, kind of just like give your hands a little spray, and then yeah, see, it doesn't help that much, but a little bit. But you just want to make sure this is nice and tight all the way around, and then in the center. And as you are lifting up, there might be some little holes, like as you're pushing, you might make holes, and you just got to go back and make sure that's all filled in. So when you're done, like I said, I like mine a little bit chunkier because I like the texture of the cookies. I don't like it to be too crummy. So mine looks something like that. And then now that's it for that. And now we're gonna start on the cheesecake mix. The cheesecake mix is super easy. You are going to take 3 8-ounce cream cheese, whatever your preference is. I like Philadelphia cream cheese. I really feel like it makes the cheesecakes come out really nice and fluffy. It's just my favorite. That's my personal preference, but if you like a different cream cheese, you can use whatever you want. Now we're gonna just mix that together. So what I like to use is room temperature on pretty much all my stuff. My eggs, my cream cheese, my butter. I like to use room temperature everything. So this was room temperature and it just came together a lot easier. You don't have to mess with it too much. That's what I like about it. Once you get it all nice and fluffy, you're gonna take a spatula and you're gonna scrape down the sides. And that's because as the mixer is going, it's pushing all that up against the sides and it's gonna get stuck there and then you'll end up with lumps later. So you really need to scrape in between each step. So this is our first step. We're gonna scrape down all the sides here. Gotta lower my mixer back down for a second. You wanna scrape the sides and the bottom. You don't want lumpy cheesecake. That's not gonna be good. Especially since well, not especially anything. You just don't want lumpy cheesecake, but we are gonna be making this chocolate, so you don't want like little white lumps in there. It's not gonna be pretty. It'll still taste good. You can't really mess it up. People are afraid of baking, I think sometimes. I think people get afraid of baking sometimes because they think they're gonna mess things up. You're not gonna mess it up. Even if you do, it's gonna taste good. It's sugar, it's eggs, it's milk, it's butter. It's still gonna taste super yummy. So if it's not the prettiest thing in the world, it doesn't really matter. It's still gonna taste good. But we're gonna try to make it pretty. Okay, so we scrape everything down. And now we are gonna add our condensed milk. I just use Eagle brand, but you can use whatever brand you like. Again, doesn't matter. So we're gonna dump that in, just a little, not all of it, not all at once. Let me lift my bowl back up. Where's my handle? There we go. We're gonna mix that together. See how smooth that is getting? It's getting really nice and smooth in there. That's what you want. Now at this point, before we add the rest, we're gonna scrape it down one more time. Make sure there's nothing sticking to the sides. That cream cheese really likes to just stick to the sides. So scrape the bottom, get your paddle, get around your paddle. That's another thing, we're using a paddle in this. We're not trying to get air into our cheesecake. And then we are gonna add the rest slowly here. That was a mistake. Okay, a couple things to remember. A mistake because I just turned it on too high. But a couple of things to remember. The reason that we're adding the milk slow is if we just dumped all this into the really solid cheesecake, it's gonna get lumpy. It doesn't have you have to kind of incorporate the liquid a little bit at a time. If you just try to do all the liquid at one time, then the cheesecake is just it's gonna mix into it, it's gonna be lumpy. You'll eventually maybe get it all out, but this is much easier. So just do it a little bit at a time, and then it comes together really smooth. We're gonna keep adding. Really smooth and nice. Okay, so we have all of our condensed milk added in. Now because we added condensed milk, we don't need to add sugar. That is our sugar. The condensed milk is our sugar. So that was all we needed to do. And it comes out so nice and creamy. It's so good, you guys. Okay, so the hardest part of this recipe, I'll tell you what the hardest part is. The hardest part of this recipe is mixing the chocolate chips. That's it. The hardest part is mixing the chocolate chips. Why? Because you don't want to burn the chocolate chips. You can't put the chocolate chips in the microwave for 2 or 3 minutes and be like, oh, no, they'll burn super duper quick. They'll burn on the sides. The microwave has creates hot spots in here. It's not going to heat your stuff evenly. You could heat this over double boiler, make your life, I guess, a little bit easier, but then you got to stand over it and you got to stir it. So what I do is I mix the chocolate into the microwave. I heat it up 30 seconds at a time. Stir it even if it doesn't look like it needs to be stirred. You still have to stir it. You'll find a little tiny pocket in there that is tiny bit melted. You gotta stir it up. Then another 30 seconds, stir it up. Another 30 seconds, guess what? It's stir it up. Then at the very end, you're gonna start stirring, and as you start stirring, the chocolate's gonna keep on melting and it's gonna get smoother and smoother and smoother. I would say maybe 2 minutes this took from start to finish, and it just, look at that. That's perfect. Oh, it's so good. This is when you were like, you wish you were a kid again so you could lick the spoon, right? Yeah, well, we're not gonna do that. No, we won't. So, now we're gonna add the chocolate to the cheesecake. Same thing, just a little bit at a time, okay? So I'm gonna start with a little bit of chocolate here. I'm gonna turn on the mixer. Oh, wow. Come on, man. Doesn't that look delicious? And you know what? This doesn't have eggs in it yet. Ooh, you could taste it. Now, guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna scrape the sides. Turn this off. We're gonna scrape the sides and make sure all the white and chocolate are coming together. All right, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna crack our eggs. We need 4 eggs for this recipe. So we're gonna do 1, just like that, 2, just like that. Why are we using a bowl? We're using a bowl so that we don't get any shells into our cheesecake. Cause I don't know about you, but I don't want any crunchy stuff in my cheesecake. Ew. All right, so that's 3, 4. And if we got an egg, or if we got a shell in our eggs, then we would see it in the bowl, we'd be able to take it out. That wasn't a shell right there, that's just, I had some cheesecake on the bowl. Okay, so now we're gonna add 1 egg at a time and let it incorporate, and then add another, incorporate, add another. It doesn't take just a minute, here we go. You can do it on a nice medium speed here. Doesn't take very long at all. Another. Why are we doing 1 egg at a time? We're doing 1 egg at a time for the same reason that we did the milk, a little bit at a time. We want it to get all nice and incorporated really nicely. 1, get 1 more. Last one, 4 eggs. Turn it up a little bit, a lot bit. Last thing we're gonna add is just a little splash of vanilla. I don't measure. If you wanna measure, it's a teaspoon. If you don't wanna measure like me, you just dump what looks like a teaspoon in there. It's not gonna hurt anything if it's a little extra. It's also not gonna hurt anything if it's a little not extra. So it's fine, just a little vanilla. Look at that amazingness. Oh my gosh. Okay, now lower the bowl, paddle. Okay, the last thing I didn't talk about, what we're gonna talk about right now, is the paddle. Why do we use a paddle? Because we're not trying to put a lot of air into our cheesecake. You could make fluffy cheesecakes, right? But not this one. This is just a nice, smooth, rich, chocolatey cheesecake. So we don't want to add a lot of air. If you use a whip, that's for adding air, like whipped cream, meringues, that kind of thing. If you made a fluffy cheesecake, then you'd want to use a whip. No, we're using a paddle. I think I said that enough. Okay. Now, that just dropped on the floor. That's so cool. I love when crap like that happens. Okay. Now we're gonna pour this. Oh, see, that's a big chunk of white. We don't want that. We're gonna pour our chocolate cheesecake into our springform. All right. Now I'm using a 9-inch springform pan. Why do we use springform when we make cheesecake? because it's gonna come out a lot easier. You can, this isn't something that you can, you know, flip upside down. This is something that you want it to, once it bakes, you want it to stay nice and pretty. So you shouldn't have to scrape the sides with a knife or anything because we use some nice pan spray and we have a nice Teflon coated springform pan. So we shouldn't have to worry about anything like that. If we do and it looks like it's sticking a little bit, then we'll go around with a knife. We'll do that when it's done. We'll see. But a springform allows you right here to open it up and not flip out the cake or anything like that. So that's why I use a springform. We're just gonna tap this a tiny bit to get any little air bubbles out. You can see some came to the surface just a little bit. We're gonna tap it one more time. Okay, that should be good. So we have all the little air bubbles that come to the top. Now we are gonna put this in an oven, 300 degrees for about 60 to 65 minutes. Y'all know I don't like to edit, so what you see is what you get. However, I'm not gonna sit here for 65 minutes while we put this in the oven, so you will see this edit. Let's put this in the oven for 65 minutes and then I'll come back and we'll show you when it's done. It's gonna be so delicious. Okay, we have cheesecake. It is baked, it is out of the oven. It looks amazing. Look at this. It is like perfectly set. So there's a tiny bit of little tiny cracks around the edges. You don't want to have it bake longer than that. Really, there should be no cracks at all, so I probably should have pulled it out 5 minutes earlier. I left it in 70 minutes, so the 65 is right. Listen to me, don't do what I did. Okay. It's delicious. It's gonna be delicious. It's really warm right now. So now we have to let this set overnight. It's gonna set, it's gonna chill in the refrigerator, and then we're gonna unmold it and we're gonna put ganache over the top. It's gonna be so yummy, 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 yummy. So I'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Hi, okay, we are back. It's been 24 hours since we baked our cheesecake and it's been sitting in the refrigerator and we're gonna unmold it, decorate it, get it all ready to eat. It's gonna be so yummy. Okay, so here we have our cheesecake and you can see it has this little buckle. We're just gonna undo the buckle and it pops right off. Sometimes it's gonna stick to the edge and you just kind of have to go around and undo it. It's not too big of a deal. Then we're just gonna take our little spatula here and we're gonna go underneath, kind of go all the way around, try to hold it steady. You can see this one's pretty loose already, but sometimes they stick to the bottom and you're just gonna take your palette knife and go all the way around. Okay, then we put it on our board here. And ta-da! Chocolate cheesecake. It looks delicious. Okay, so now we're gonna pour ganache on top. So how I made this ganache is I took 20 ounces of a dark chocolate. I used Ghirardelli. And then 10 ounces of cream. You can do a little bit more cream if it's a little bit thick. This actually was about 12 ounces of cream. And I just heated up the cream, poured it over the chocolate. Then you're gonna wait about 3-4 minutes, just kind of let it melt, and then you whisk it together. So my ganache broke a little bit. And what you can do to fix that if it breaks, and that just means like the oil is like separating in the chocolate and it gets a little, it just doesn't look real smooth. It looks like it's separated. So what you can do to bring it back together is heat up a couple teaspoons of milk or water, not cream, just milk or water, and you're gonna pour that in there and then whisk it together. And when you do that, it's gonna come out nice and gorgeous and smooth, really nice ganache. So this is all melty, and we are going to pour that on top of our cheesecake. Delicious. And then just swirl it around, and then you just kind of go towards the edges, push on the edge a little until it just runs over the edge just a little, and then just come back around, give it a little swirl, and voila. Now we are going to top that with some homemade buttercream, and I'm going to do that in a separate video, so you can look for that video. But you can use any chocolate icing that you prefer. You don't have to do anything. You could just top this with Cool Whip. You could cut it right now, eat a slice just like it is. You don't have to top it with anything, but I'm going to top it with some chocolate buttercream. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 right down the center, and then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Gorgeous. And then we are gonna top it with this little chocolate decoration that I made. Voila. Doesn't it look delicious? It looks so good. Wanna cut it? Ooh, let's cut it. Let's cut it and eat it. Okay. Let's do a nice little piece here. Oh my goodness. So nice and rich and chocolatey. That looked delicious. Little tip when you're cutting is to like rinse your knife or have like a hot little cup to put your knife in, so that it won't have all this cake sticking to it when you go to cut the next piece, and it'll give you a nice clean cut. But anyway, let's have a taste, because I just want this icing, to be honest with you. Okay, never mind. All right. Yep. Okay. This is not for the faint of heart. This is one chocolatey cheesecake. It is super chocolatey, and like probably this size will feed 20, 25, 30 people, because it is super rich. Like I could not even think about eating all that. Like this is my last bite right here. Like it's so good though. And the cookie crust. I'm gonna hurt myself. Okay. That's our video. We made chocolate cheesecake. This is a pretty easy recipe. I think everybody can make this, and it's so good. So enjoy, and I think that wraps us up. So thank you so much for watching, and stay sweet, y'all, and have a great day. Now, that just dropped on the floor. That's so cool. I love when crap like that happens.